Oh, we're live, yay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wild Ginger Running YouTube channel, live broadcast and podcast. So today we are talking about 3 ways that you can get faster for ultra running and multi-day ultra running with the indefatigable coach and physio, Tim Pigott from HP3 Coaching. So how are you today, Tim?
Hi, Claire. All good. Yeah, your introductions get more and more interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
That wasn't a very good one. I couldn't think of any more. I should have put incredible along with that, shouldn't I? But I just wanted to call you indefatigable because of how you cope with your highs and lows as you go through this mountaineering, this trail running and ultra running journey that you're on.
Yes, true. Yeah.
And so you recently did the UTS 100 miler. And
I started it.
You started it. Let us know how it went.
Yeah, unfortunately, a little bit unwell. So I ended up pulling out at the second aid station before things went really south. And my basic, stomach issues, which I think is related to an error with my pre-race nutrition. I had problems with my gallbladder in the past, and I got some early warning signs at the beginning of the race that it wasn't working. And without going into too much details, nutrition just wasn't going down at all from the start. And I got to the second aid station, and I was very clear that things were about to go quite badly, quite quickly. So ended up pulling out, and at that time I sort of seemed okay on the outside, but by the time we got back to the accommodation, I wasn't. So
So it was definitely a good decision.
It was a very good decision for me and everybody else around me.
But disappointing nevertheless, because you trained so hard. We saw a treadmill set up. You've got your incline treadmill, you've got your hook on the wall where you can pull the resistance bands to simulate poles, and it all just looks so amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I went into that in really good shape, very well prepared, apart from the pre-race. So I just tried to eat too much the morning of the race. I've had problems with my gallbladder in the past, but nothing for the last 3 years, probably. And then, it was just very similar to that. So this is probably the kind of, third episode really I've had like this. But hey ho, these things happen. And unfortunately, that is the nature of the beast when it comes to these ultra races, is you've only got a few of them on the calendar. If it was a 5K race or 10K race, it's like, okay, right, we'll come from that. I'll do another one in a week or two's time. But we don't work like that with our kind of race calendar. So I've got a place to do the Helvellyn Sky Ultra as a nice sort of build-up race. So that's in July, and then it's all building up towards obviously UTMB, which is the main race for this year. So that did feed into the decision that I could have pushed on a bit further just to try and do a little bit more of the race, but I would have dug a much bigger hole. So sadly, the sensible thing to do was to pull out. Which is a real shame, because I had sort of camera crew following me for this film that we're doing and everything. So
but it shows the reality of it, doesn't it? Like, I think it's important to include that. Like, if it was just a film where everything went completely right for you, it'd be kind of boring. It creates some jeopardy around, are you going to make it to UTMB as well? Like, there's like now, you'll make it.
I've got to finish.
Yeah, you've got to finish that. But what will you do differently? Will you use the Helvellyn Sky Race as like a practice for not eating too much prior to just dial it?
True. But the problem is that sort of, normally before a race, often races are an early morning start. So it's just a case of a little bit of porridge and then off you go and go for a big long run. But because it's sort of 1 o'clock start, and then try to eat too much later on in that morning and have a sort of an early lunch on top of a large breakfast, and it was essentially too much fat within what I was eating there. That was the mistake I made. It's normally fine. It's my usual evening meal pre-race, so kind of an evening start, like a 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night start, like a lot of the European races are. But I just ate that too close to race day and too soon after breakfast. I haven't practiced it.
Yeah, so you'll be okay at UTMB fit starting.
It will be, yeah. It's like I say, it's a late afternoon, 6 p.m. start, so a bigger gap between main meal and starting running.
Yeah.
And I will be practicing my pre-race meal many times.
Many times. Oh, well, we're going to be following your progress, so everybody's got their fingers and toes and everything crossed for you.
Thank you. Well, I'm flying out there. I'm actually going out to the Alps next week, so I'm going to run the UTMB course over a few days. So that'll be a good test of things and checking out the route. There's still a fair bit of snow, so it's might be a bit slow going over some of the coals, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. I've always wanted to do the UTMB route over several days, like maybe 6 days or something. So yeah, that sounds really a better way to do it than the actual race.
I think it's going to be fun. Yeah, it's going to be definitely sort of more enjoyable, and obviously seeing the night sections in daylight will be good as well.
Yeah.
Appreciate those early sections of the race.
Yeah, a whole different experience. Yeah.
I'll try and film as much of it as I can. So I'll tell you for some editing tips and try and put something together.
Oh yeah, no, that would be fab. Yeah, do a film of it. Yeah, let me know. We can put it on the channel if you want as well. I'm sure everybody would like to see that. I would.
No worries.
Cool.
How was you did your multi-day adventure?
Yeah. So I did my Dragon's Back adventure. So I did day 1 split over 2 days on Friday and Saturday, and I put it on social media, and loads of people thought that I'd done the actual Dragon's Back race, but just dropped out on day 1. And I was like, no, because I hadn't called it a recce, because it's not a recce, because I'm not doing the race. So it was like I didn't identify as a reccier. And so loads of people that from slightly outside the running world, like my sort of Stamford Striders running club friends and all sorts of people were like, oh my god, you took on the Dragon's Back, that's amazing, because they don't know that the race is in September. But anyone who is like, a patron or in this world would know that that's what I'm doing. So I had to put a second post up saying I was recceing the route. I did put over 2 days, but no one reads that bit. Anyway, so cut a long story short, I wasn't quick enough, so I'm not fit enough at the moment. I got to Tryfan, so you start in Conwy, you go over the small hills outside Conwy, and then you go over the Carnedai, and then you're supposed to go up Tryfan, and then over Gliderai, and then down to Pennepass, and that's where I'd planned to stop, and then do Snowdon Horseshoe the following day. So I got to the top of Tryfan. It was 5:30 in the afternoon, and the clouds were rolling in. I was really knackered. That climb up Tryfan had taken me like an hour and a half, and I was going really slowly. I was wobbling around because I was just really tired, and I just thought to myself, with what's coming and how I'm feeling, I think I should knock those 2 on the head, and I should go round the side and get the bus back to where I was staying. So I did that. The bus went straight past me, but that's another story. You'll have to watch the film, everybody, as to how I got to my accommodation. And then I did the Snowdon Horseshoe the following day over Crib Goch, even though it was kind of rainy. That it was not windy, so that was really good. And then I went up Llwyd as well, the next mountain along. The Dragon's Back race then continues along the ridge and goes down into Nant Gwynant, but I had to catch a bus to get home and pick up a big box of stuff that I'd posted to Pennepass for my overnight stay. So I had to go back down the normal way, down the Snowdon Horseshoe. But I feel like it still will be useful for people doing the Dragon's Back race or the hatchling, or just seeing what it entails, because it's an absolute beast. Like, I know Lloyd Watkin, who's watching live now, Christian Poulton, we interviewed those as well about their Dragon's Back race. Christian managed to complete it. Lloyd Watkin did 4 days, like nearly 5 days of it, and he's going back for another go this year. But even to complete day 1 is a massive achievement. It just brought it home to me just how fit you have to be. So I said in the film, I've got to do what I did for Lakeland 50, which was basically get my full race pack on and just run up and down this kilometre hill that's near my house. So to be fair, having not done really much training apart from strength work and the odd sort of 7-mile run, I think I did pretty well. But if I want to complete the rest of it, I need to get some serious training in now. So I'm going to build up from a little backpack to a full wild camping backpack and be just hiking up and down that hill for 2 hours every week. I just need to do it. I just need to crack that out again, because it did actually work. I didn't realise how well I'd trained for Lakeland 50. I got to Lakeland 50 and I felt great until about 40 miles when my feet just started to hurt and I was a bit tired. But I felt great on that race, and it's because of all that uphill running with a big pack that I did. So I just need to do that again.
Absolutely. But again, I think that highlights, these big name races that are getting very, very popular. I'm not just talking about obviously Dragon's Back, but can we talk about Spines? Can we talk about Lakeland?
Tour de
a lot of these races. Again, UTS. The DNF rate for these events is very high. I think it's what you're showing there is the seriousness of the undertaking when you enter these things.
Yeah.
Just be really aware of what you've let yourself in for.
Yeah.
And as you've done there is, getting on the course and wrecking it and just realizing quite how serious that terrain is and how slow it is.
Yeah.
It was Howard Dracup. Many people know Howard. He said something to me, but before I did UTS 100K a couple of years ago, it's like Snowdonia just hits different. The rocks are harder. And it just hurts more than anything else out there. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then went down and started wrecking the UTS route. And I was like, right, Howard, this is harder. This is not like running in the lakes or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's just being aware of what you've let yourself in for. So I think just what people would take away from your films, although yes, you didn't necessarily finish the set routes, is just showing, this is really tough. And even with a lot of experience, that still doesn't make up for lack of maybe strength and fitness.
Definitely. And also I did my usual thing of like filming and faffing and taking photos, and it just brings it home to you that you can't really do those two jobs at once. And it's just
like okay. We've talked about this when you were filming when you did the Arc.
Yes.
And in fact, that's just made me think, because obviously I'm going out and running around the Tour de Mont Blanc, and I was looking at some people who had done the same thing. And there was this couple that the chap is a videographer, creator, whatever you want to call it, and he's running with his partner. I looked at both of their Strava files to kind of see, I wonder how long it's going to take to do that section. He obviously kept stopping his watch when he then got things out to film, and she just left her watch running. And his kind of time for that leg was like 6.5 hours or something. Hers was more like 10, 11 hours. And it just shows you actually how much extra time it takes to stop, get your camera out, make a film.
And energy as well, just pressing, like it sounds ridiculous, but finding the button, because it's got a windshield thing on, finding this button to turn it on. The amount of times I pressed it really hard and it just didn't turn on because I was pressing the wrong bit and I had gloves on, I couldn't find it. And I was like, oh, bloody hell. And then you have to press this one as well, and then you have to hold it, and then you have to like do this to make it bigger and turn it like that and hold it out and think about what you're going to say. There's a lot to it. And and because I'm me, I just was like, oh, people might want to see this bit, people might want to see this bit, and oh, look at that view. So I've just got far too much footage. And also the navigation, I didn't have the GPX track on my watch because they couldn't send it me in time. So I thought I'll be fine with the little Dragon's Back map and my OS Maps app, which absolutely saved my life because I'm not brilliant at navigating. I'm very slow, and it just proves how important a recce is if you can do it, because if I go back now I can pretty much remember all of the things much quicker, and I wouldn't have to look at the map so much, but I had to stop so many times. But also if you were on the race, you could probably see like a line of people, especially on that first day, you could probably see a line of people going. I missed the first turning, the first path off the road from Conwy. I just missed it because it was in a hedge and I hadn't seen it. So there was several times where I had to backtrack as well, so that didn't help with my feet.
I suppose we're going off on little bit of a tangent, but that does come down to, how do you get quicker at ultras? Well, don't get lost is obviously one of them.
Exactly. So that's why
knowing the route and
this is
wrecking
is for me, because I need this as well. The question from Helen. So shall we get into
it's very true. And yes, it's applicable at the back of the pack and it's applicable at the front of the pack.
Even more so at the front, because you can't follow anyone.
Well, that's it. But I put my win at the Spine Challenger, down to the fact that I knew that route like the back of my hand, because I'd recce'd it so many times, the whole route. And really, the only reason I beat Tim Bradley, who came second, was he made a couple of wrong turns, and I didn't. And I think if he had known the course back then, he knows it now, but if he'd known it back then, it would have been a very, very different race.
Yeah, exactly. And I know Larry Morgan, she said the people who were winning the race, they just knew these little dragon's back trods, and any time that I went on this little trod that cut something out or curved around the corner, I felt really good about myself. I was like, oh, I'm on a dragon's back little trod here. But yeah, being faster at ultras is a lot more than just training to be fit. But Helen's question that we've got today.
Go on, let's crack on with that.
Yeah, we better crack on with what we promised to deliver today, which is patron Helen Plant wants some information about speed on ultras. So we are going to cover speed work for ultras. So she says, hi Claire, I was going to message a question for Coach Tim. Maybe this could be a topic for next time. Speed training for ultras and multi-dayers. I am never going to be that speedy, but my main objective is always to have fun and a great day out and finish the race. But I also understand that a well-rounded training should include some speed work. I currently run 4 times a week and I do 2 30-minute strength sessions plus yoga and stretching. The only speed work I do at the moment is strides in my easy runs. So have you got any guidance on including some structured speed work, like how often, how long, building it up, possible sessions, etc.? That would be fab. She says, thanks. And she says, P.S. Coach Tim's inputs are completely brilliant. I have a sight impairment, which means I'm always going to find some aspects of ultras more challenging. But Tim's insights into all the non-running ways in which you can improve your performance have been a total game changer. So thanks so much, both of you, from Helen. Oh, isn't that lovely? Thank you, Helen, for doing that.
I wonder what the sight impairment is. It depends on what it is. I've got a sight impairment myself. I've only got one eye that works, so I haven't got that perception. So that's why running downhill for me is really quite difficult, because I can't actually tell how far away the rocks are that I'm jumping onto.
So I've got a good friend, my son's best friend's mum in my running club. She's got a sight impairment as well. She's she can't really see in one eye, and she doesn't really run on trails for that reason, because she all over. So it's really, really tricky. You just don't think of it, do you?
But how do we sort of include speed work? Should we include speed work? There's another kind of debate, and you will hear people say, oh, ultra running, you don't need to do speed work, it's just about building that endurance. And you could argue that in even sort of going as short as a marathon, you don't touch your top end energy systems. You're not working. There should be no involvement really of a kind of VO2 max. It's just
on my
low threshold, or below threshold rather. So you could argue, well, why do speed work? Why do anything faster than that? Because you're never going to touch those systems in a race. But that doesn't paint the full picture. And there's definitely a benefit for working on speed for ultramarathons. And I'll just give some credit and some airtime to one of my guys, Lewis Ryan, who people should be familiar with. He won the ARC 100 this year, for example. So 100 miles is one of his sort of more favourite distances. Very good at the sort of marathon distance as well. But we're working on a speed block for him at the moment. So last weekend he ran 71:42 for a half marathon.
Wow.
He did 15:43 for a 5K the other week.
Wow. That's incredible.
Putting some serious speed in the legs, which we're then going to take out to the 100 miles next year when we go back to UTMB next year.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an idea. If you wanted to work on speed, do you have a block of your training cycle where actually you have a real speed focus, and then you incorporate that as we go out into the longer stuff? So if I use Lewis as an example, our next ultra races, we're really looking at next year. So therefore, next year is a long way away. We can spend the time working on speed now. Once he's developed that real top end speed, we can then just maintain that by topping it up as we then build the volume back up later on, and the ultra distance stuff later on. So that could be a way that you look at it. You're thinking, right, what's my season plan? If I've got an ultra marathon every couple of months, how much speed work or how much of a kind of block of speed work can you put in? May not be a huge amount. But if your ultra is now not for another 6 months or so, you could say, right, I'm going to spend the next 2 or 3 months really working on some speed before I then go long again. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, it does. I'm just thinking of it in terms of I might try the arc again. And I was just thinking, oh, okay, so do I do like loads of speed work now?
That could well be it.
Up and down that hill with my big backpack on.
That's it. Is why get good at going slowly if wanting to incorporate more speed. Let's get good at going fast.
Can you just do it like how many times would you do that fast speed work session then? Like, would it just be a case of going to parkrun and doing your best every Saturday?
It depends on how much time you've got available and what kind of sessions you can fit in and what your recovery abilities are like. So it might be, 2 speed sessions a week. In somebody who's got a much bigger training volume, you might be able to get 3 sessions in there. But if we think about sort of time, how much time in that top end zone that you're spending, that might only be 10, 15, 20% of your total volume. So kind of getting back to this kind of 80-20 idea, but that 80-20 is not fixed. It might be 10%, it might be 15%. It might be as much as 20%. It depends on how much of the easy volume you can also get in to underpin that.
Yeah. So maybe,
it might be, you might only be doing some real top end speed every 10 days or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You may not be working on a pure 7-day cycle.
Yeah. And what about, like, does it have to be running? Because, like, can you do a HIIT session, say, like a strength
That's different.
session?
What I would say is you could be incorporating the bike for some speed. So that can be very useful to really touch the top end system. So doing some, either 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, 30 15s. It could be looking at 2-3 minute efforts on the bike. Really working on that leg speed, really working on that, essentially VO2 max type effort. And then starting to translate that back over into the running. That can be very useful. You just mentioned sort of HIIT and weights. Well, now we're starting to move into the other areas of how do we get faster? Well, there's kind of 3 things that we need to be thinking about in terms of how do we get faster. We need to improve our VO2 max. So I've touched on that, about doing some short efforts. So our kind of 2-3 minute type efforts, really, really, really hard. We need to improve our threshold. So our second ventilatory threshold, or lactate threshold as it gets called. We can argue about the specifics of the names here, but that's what people will be familiar with. So that's maybe kind of your 10K type pace effort. And then we think about your efficiency. So that's where we get into strides, which is what Helen's doing already, working on strength work. But by strength, and again, Helen said she's doing a couple of gym sessions a week, great. But we want to make sure that strength work is heavy. So we're talking, 4, 5, 6 repetitions of the heaviest weight you can manage for that. that kind of heavy. So we're going for as many muscle fiber recruitment as possible. And building in plyometrics as well. So you're hopping, you're jumping, you're skipping. And again, we've talked on that on previous chats. So if you're addressing the kind of strength and plyometrics, pushing your your sort of threshold, and then really pushing the VO2 max, those are the kind of 3 different areas, which will then translate to improving your running speed. But people are different as to which, they don't all 3 of those need to be at the same level. Some people respond very well to just working on VO2 max work. Some people struggle with the VO2 max. So I've got athletes who I know that if we give you lots of VO2 max type efforts, we're going to get injured. Mm-hmm. Something's going to go wrong. But I can give you lots of thresholdy, so my 6, 8, 12 minute efforts at that sort of threshold, just under threshold intensity, and you can cope with that. And we can do lots of heavy strength work, and you can cope with that. Other people do very well. They enjoy the short speed work. They like going to the track and doing some track workouts, but they struggle with maybe the gym. They can't get to the gym, or they don't enjoy going to the gym. So there's different ways that we can address that. So I'm personally, I'm good at the gym. I can sort of outshine a lot of people when it comes to lifting the weights, but I can't do the top end speed work because I'll just break.
And you've got your asthma as well to consider.
Yeah, it's more the kind of all the metal work that's holding me together.
Yeah. You need to get some oil in there.
Yeah. So in terms of how you then build that speed work in, it really depends on how much. So Helen, if we take Helen as the example, she said she's running 4 times a week. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to be doing 2 speed works and then 2 non-speed work sessions there. It might just be 1 speed work session a week. So therefore we might be alternating between 1 week doing short efforts, 1 week doing longer efforts. Mm-hmm. So it might be kind of those 2-3 minute efforts, those kind of 400, 800 meter reps on the track, that type of speed work 1 week. And the next week doing 1K reps, 4, 6, 8 minute type, that sort of 10K type pace effort. And just alternating 1 week on, 1 week off doing that. And then within the other ones, just incorporating some strides. That might be enough to build that in.
Yeah, she says she's already doing strides in her easy runs. So that sounds good.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe in her 2 30-minute strength sessions, she could do one of those really heavy weights, like you said.
Even both of those could be done as heavy lifts and incorporating some plyometrics as well. So she may do that already.
So can you do that kind of heavy lifting with just body weight, or do you have to go to a gym and actually get some big weights involved?
You need to be getting big weights involved. If we think about the kind of forces that the body's taking when we're running, your calf might be taking 5 to 9 times your body weight. So we need to be loading it heavy in order to get as many muscle fibers activated as possible. So our bodies get used to actually neurologically firing as many muscle fibers as possible. So when we then go running, we're doing a much smaller percentage of that max, and therefore it's a lot easier.
And so could you do it with just maybe a big backpacking?
Absolutely. You could load up a rucksack with
going up and down instead. If you really hate the gym and
it could be step ups on your bottom stairs of your house with a really heavy rucksack on.
Yeah,
it could be squats
with that on as well.
A big heavy rucksack on. It's just loading it up.
Yeah, load it up with bricks.
But it's just how heavy a rucksack can you build on?
Yeah, not bricks, water. Water is what we load it up in, isn't it? Because then if you're out and about somewhere and you need to ditch weight quickly, then you can just tip up.
If you're just doing it from home.
Oh, yeah. Get all your tins in there. Go shopping. Get all your tins. Yeah, that sounds great. So Helen needs to do 1 speed work a week and alternate between super fast and then a bit more in sort of thresholdy level speed work.
If she's running 4 times a week, then I'd probably be getting 1 quality speed work in there. But alternating between those 2 different styles.
Yeah.
So
we've covered how often. Let's just cover how long that should be. How long should these speed sessions be?
again, it depends on.
But maybe just for Helen in her 4 runs a week, like, should it be like 30 minutes or like maybe?
It depends on how long those runs are. So I'll be looking at sort of percentages of the total, weekly volume.
Yeah.
So it depends on how long the long run is, how long the easy runs are. But looking at, how many minutes is she running per week?
Mm-hmm.
And then thinking, right, so of that,
mm-hmm.
what percentage can then be done at those higher intensities?
Yeah, so like 20%.
Might be starting off with just 10% of that total volume. So that might be kind of 5 by 3 minutes to start with.
Yeah.
Or even 5 by 2 minutes to start with.
Yeah.
And then building it out from there.
Yeah, building it out from there. Okay, that sounds great. Yeah. So, and does it always have to be up a hill, or like you're just going at some speed? You can be around the track.
It depends on what you like doing. So it could be treadmill based. It could be on flat track. A gradual incline is speed work in disguise. So doing hill reps is speed work in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking to work on the neurological, the feel of much faster running. Then we want to probably be doing that on a flat track. Once you build up the skill set for that, you can even do some very gradual downhill, maybe sort of downhill grass reps on a very gentle slope, so that you let gravity help teach you to run faster. So for some people who we need to work on the skill of running faster, the speed skill, that might be going on the treadmill and getting the belt spinning really, really fast, hands on the side of the treadmill, jump your feet on, run for 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds, jump off, breathe for kind of maybe 50% of that time. So it might be kind of 30 15s or 20 10s, jump back on, run, off, jump on, run. So it might be that the belt is spinning far quicker than you would naturally do any speed work, but you're only doing it for 20 or 30 seconds and then you jump it off. But we're working on the skill of running faster without necessarily challenging the energy systems as much. And then we can take that out into actually running overground for longer at that slightly slower than you're doing on the treadmill. And that can be really useful as well.
Yeah, that does sound really useful if you've got a treadmill.
Or another tool. So again, I think you've commented in the past, I've got one of the lever devices, so the kind of harness that goes on my treadmill. So because of all my broken bones and so on and so forth, I'll do some of my easy runs using a harness, which is actually lifting me up. So there's less impact going through my legs, but I can still work on the running motion. And what I can actually then do is run faster than I would normally do if I was fully loaded. So that I'm also teaching my body that I can run faster. So I'm working on the skill of running faster without necessarily stressing my bones as much and without necessarily stressing my energy systems as much. Yeah.
And so just to follow on from that, like not stressing your impact as much. You mentioned doing some speed sessions on the bike. How would that work if Helen wanted to get on her bike? Like if she's doing 4 runs a week and then she's like, oh, actually these speed sessions are making me pick up a bit of a niggle. Like, could she get on the bike for one and get that?
So it could be that we do, one running speed session and one bike speed session. Mm-hmm. So again, I'll use that with my athletes a lot as well, that we'll do some of the speed, we'll do some of the high intensity work on the bike. And again, that can work on the skill of going faster. So if we think about, if you visualize a really good trail runner going downhill, their legs are spinning, 200 steps a minute, if not faster sometimes. How do we train for that? Some people actually struggle to turn their legs over fast enough for that. And that's, one of the things they end up breaking too much, slowing themselves down because they literally just can't spin their legs fast enough. So we train that on the bike. Spin bike, just get your legs going really fast, doing high cadence, 120, 130, 150 revolutions a minute. So we work on the skill of running faster by using the bike to teach us to turn the legs over faster. Mm-hmm. And then we can translate that into maybe doing some short efforts or some, your kind of threshold. So, for example, I did my threshold session for this week yesterday on the bike. I did my 2 by 10 minutes at my threshold, put them on the bike rather than running.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of warm up for 10, and then you like, right, I'm going to go hard for 10. And do you actually look at your heart rate while you're doing that, or
power,
do you just? Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. Or you could do it on perceived exertion, couldn't you? So, like, if they want to do a threshold session, can you just remind people how they should be feeling, exertion-wise?
So it's that kind of could maybe get 1 or 2 words out if you're trying to talk to somebody, but you are breathing hard. It's that maximum effort you could really do for 1 hour, which is what we say. It's kind of that 10-kilometer pace.
10K effort pace. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So yeah. So I hope that's helping you, Helen. Can you do it swimming as well? Like you can transfer that to any sport, I presume.
The principles are the same for swimming, but if we're talking about swimming to help running, that's not the same. We can do aqua jogging, and we can work quite hard aqua jogging, but it's not the same.
It's not transferable. Is the
VO2? It is useful, but that wouldn't be where I would go as my sort of primary. I would be using it as recovery, and do use aqua jogging and swimming as active recovery. The sort of joke is that swimming is kind of poor man's physio, because it just helps get everything moving and just flushing everything out and a bit of mobility. So swimming is definitely very, very useful, but I wouldn't be picking swimming as a way to improve my running speed.
Okay, good to know. Cancelled, that's weird.
It's one of those where if you've got the time, I've got some of my pure runners, we're including swimming in the program just as a bit of active recovery.
Yeah.
Because they enjoy it. They've got actually no intention of doing triathlon or anything.
Yeah, they just like it for recovery. Yeah, when I've done ultras, if I've got to look after Finley the next day, I often book a swim for us because the cold water is really good for the legs, and I can sort of stretch and sort of move about while he's sort of playing around me, and it's a nice sort of weightless way to recover. So yeah, swimming is great for recovery after ultras if you've got kids as well.
Definitely, yeah. I'll take the kids to the pool after my long run, and they'll be playing around, and I'll just be in the corner doing some stretching.
Yeah. Oh, well, mine's 4, so I can't really leave him alone. Or he tries to drown at every opportunity. Yeah. Okay, cool. So is that all of speedwork covered? Or did you have more to say? Because there's also like points I thought, because this is supposed to be a 3-up. So we've done speedwork as like number 1 thing, and then number 2 I thought could be being really efficient, and number 3 could be
okay. So then it depends what we mean by speed, isn't it? So Helen's question was more about sort of speed work, as in sessions. But yeah, as we touched on at the start of the chat today, it's also about just getting to the finish line quicker. I think I'm proof that you don't have to be the fastest person on paper to do quite well in some races. I've had some good results against people who are significantly faster than me, but I've just made good decisions at the right time. So we've talked in the past about being efficient in terms of aid stations, so managing your time effectively, relentless forward progress, essentially. So you're not sitting around, not standing around, not spending 5 minutes getting your camera out and doing a bit of piece to camera, and then putting it away again, and 5 minutes later you set off down the trail again, Claire.
Me.
Yeah, but it's that sort of making sure that you are, continually moving forward. Can you even go to the toilet whilst walking and not even slowing down for that?
I don't know if I could do that. I think it would just dribble all down my legs, and it'd be horrible.
Yeah. Does that matter? You're covered in
mud. I think have an advantage to that.
But there's even those. Yeah, how far do you want to take it? So it's making sure that you're efficient at the aid station, so you know what your plan is when you arrive at the aid station. You get your stuff. If it is a case of you're having an eat and drink there, could you do that walking up the road rather than sitting down in the aid station? So actually, you finish your cup of tea or your bowl of pasta, but you're a few hundred meters or an extra 5-10 minutes up the road, and then you stop, put your bowl away, and then crack on again, rather than being 10 minutes further back in the aid station still. So certainly for those who are chasing cut-offs at the end, that's definitely what you want to be thinking about, is how do I keep ahead of that cut-off? And it's about minimizing any stoppage time.
Yeah.
And even those who are then sort of pushing for the front end, people are getting better, and we're seeing it even within the pros. They are getting better at making those aid stations that sort of Formula One pit stop style.
Yeah.
But there's still there's a lot of, even just watching the pros, there's a lot of people who could still be a lot more efficient with their aid station drills.
Yeah. So just it's nice, isn't it, to know that it's not just about speed work, and there is stuff that you can do cunningly and efficiently to make yourself faster with no real slogging effort.
Yes, exactly. And it's even just making your slowest speed faster. So speed work can also be applicable to the other end of the speed spectrum. Case in point, my session this morning, if anybody really wants to go and have a look on Strava, tread hills, hiking, and it's just working on my walking speed on an incline and making my walking speed faster. And I've managed to then push that. It kind of slowed down a bit because I was doing so much slow stuff for UTS on very rough terrain, and going on to UTMB, far more runnable terrain. I'm getting that back up faster again. And I've made my sort of uphill walking speed probably a minute a kilometre faster than it was even a couple of months ago.
Wow, that's really impressive. Yeah, because I think a lot of these races, for me, it's not about running at all. No, it's about poles out, hiking up a hill, and you're trying to go up that hill as quick as possible, really. I spoke to somebody once. It was about a bike race. It was about the Fred Whitten, and he said it's not about how fast you go down the hills. It's about how much you don't slow down up the hills.
Absolutely.
It's a funny way to think about it. So you gain more if you can make yourself quicker up the hill than if you can make yourself quicker down the hill.
Yeah, and that comes back to a lot of the ultra running things. So if we look at what's the difference between people at the very front of the pack and people at the middle and the back of the pack, the speed difference between the guys at the very front, and guys and girls at the very front, and people at the back at the start of the race is not huge.
Yeah.
The difference is in the second half of a race, the people at the front of the pack are not slowing down as much.
Yeah, so they can maintain that
as much, particularly on the descents.
Okay.
The descents, which is the real difference in front of pack versus back of pack.
Yeah, so they're still hurling themselves down those descents.
They can still run the descents.
Yeah.
Whereas other people have blown their quads, which comes back to the strength work. Get really strong in the gym. You won't damage your quads so much in the first half of the race, which means you can still go faster on the downhills in the second half of the race and not slow down.
So say I'm going to build up to carrying my full wild camping pack up Gamekeeper's Hill, the kilometre hill. Should I be working towards running down that hill with that backpack on? Or is that a bit much?
Potentially, but I'd only be doing that maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, so walk down, but maybe run.
Building it up, but working on your descending and working on that strength of descending. But what we know is you can do some hard descending work, and the benefits of that session will last you for 2 to 3 weeks. So you only need to do those hard downhills every couple of weeks.
Yeah, okay, every couple of weeks, not every week.
If you do it too much, then that's where you're going to get injured.
Yeah, okay. Good to know. There's so many bits, isn't there? Like bits and bobs of it. Like it's like a mosaic that can come together in a good picture or a bad picture.
It is. And which elements you need for which individual race and individual person will vary as well. And that's the art.
The art, yes. Yeah. Science and the art.
Yeah, the art of the coaching is understanding what little bits is applicable to that particular person for that particular race.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it won't be the same for everybody.
Yeah. yeah, that's really good to know about the downhill running as well. I hope that helps you out, Helen, and anyone else that's listening and has a similar question. And then, so I suppose the last one that I it really became apparent on my dragon's backing, because obviously this is a really pertinent conversation for me because I need to get faster to complete the routes in even 2 days. The map reading really slowed me down. I had to actually stop several times, like multiple times, to just check that I was going the right way. And when I didn't, there was a couple of times where I just thought that I knew where I was going. And then I was like, hang on a minute, maybe I should just check. And I had to backtrack 15 minutes. Twice I had to do that. So yeah, having that route on your watch can make you.
There's that, but maybe it's a case of, if you need to improve your map reading skills, is spend some time with orienteers and do some orienteering.
Yeah.
Pick up the tips. Spend some time learning from orienteers, which is what I did a lot of when I was younger. But it might be just making sure that you carry the map in front of you, that you're thumbing the map. So you've always got your thumb on the map as to where you are, and then you're just gently moving your thumb along the trail as you're doing it. So then you're not having to get the map out, open it up, try to remember where you were before, where you might be now, looking around to try and get your bearings or get your compass out. Is literally just have the map in your hand at all times and just thumbing it along.
How do you do that if you're using poles, though? Because that's what I found I love using poles, but the main downside with using poles is map reading and eating and drinking.
Yep.
Not much drinking.
So there was a race I did, 100 miler, a few years back now, which again, I made sure that I was also following the map because the GPX was a bit questionable. I just laminated. I had lots and lots of little strips. So it was literally just kind of this strip of laminated card is the next couple of miles. And I was literally just following that so I could keep that little laminated strip in the palm of my hand, because it was small enough to go in the palm of my hand. So I can still use my poles and hold on to that. And then just quickly check that little bit of map, got to the end of that, put that one away, get out the next little strip and just keep doing it like that.
Yeah.
So it might be a case of you need to, cut up and laminate or photocopy and laminate the sections of your route. But then you've got the main map in your pack. So if you've gone off route and you need to know the surrounding area because you've gone way off, you've gone off your laminated track, then you can do it that way. But of course, GPX watches are far better than when I did that race. So map reading's less of an issue. But is knowing how to read the map. But I think, thumbing the route, knowing what your aiming off points are. So it might be a case of looking at the map, right, I'm looking for a junction in the wall. So then when you get to that junction in the wall, right, look up, okay, fine, I know where I am now. I'm going to the next thing I'm looking for is that stream crossing. Right, okay, get to the stream. And you're just always looking to see what's my next landmark, aiming off point, whatever it might be. And then you work into that. So you're always just breaking down to those little chunks.
Yeah, break it down into small chunks. Yes. Got you. Yeah, it's just, this is a Harvey's map and it's 1 to 40,000. And I found the OS Map app really useful because you can really zoom in, and also it tells you exactly where you are. So it's just absolutely brilliant. Like, look at that. It just shows you, it'll have a little red, I'm not there now, obviously, but you can really zoom in, and really see exactly where you are. So yeah, I found that really, really useful. And I would highly recommend that. If it's raining, you can't really use your screen or your phone, so that then you have to. Then the little watch might come in handier.
Battery dies on the phone.
Yeah. Basically, we have all different types of navigation available.
Absolutely, yeah. Always have your backup map and know how to use it.
Yeah. Well. So that's covered 3 things, I think. So Helen originally asked about speed work. I think we've covered the speed work, we've covered being efficient, and we've covered navigating well as well. So I think that is great.
Are you going back for your next couple of legs or breaking next section down in Wales?
Yes, July is the next one, so I'm going to do 1 per month. because I have to be away from home for a couple of nights. The next section is the Rhinogith, which is really wild, and yeah, I think I might camp, and I think I might have to actually split it over 3 days because it's 60 kilometers. So if I can't even do 50k in 2 days, then how am I going to do 60 in a really wild rocky area? So I think I might split it down into 3 days for that.
Just nice time, no pressure.
Yeah, it was actually really nice doing it with no time pressure, but that made me not super fast or anything. There was no no urgency to what I was doing. So I think that was my downfall as well, in terms of not being able to fit in the last 2 mountains. I would like to go and try that one again. It'd be so great, wouldn't it, to be fit enough to do a race like the Dragon's Back race. I just admire the people so much, like Christian and Lloyd, who are doing it, and it's just amazing how anyone could even do that. But maybe they just train really hard, because I can't really expect to do it if I'm not training hard, can I?
It's just having the time to put the work in, and what are you prepared to sacrifice? That is what it comes down to. It's a sacrifice.
I've got a super plan though. Our garage, we're going to put treadmill in the garage and a telly, so I can still watch Desperate Housewives and run at the same time. That is my super duper ultra running plan.
It is time efficient. My plan was to head to one of my local hills today, but I realised I just didn't have time. So it's a case of treadmill it is. It's
a means to an end.
It's a means to an end. I'll get my mountain fixed next week.
Yeah, where are you off to next week?
The Alps.
Oh, cool. Nice one. That's when you're doing the over like 4 days.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. Oh, we'll take loads of video footage. Don't let it slow you down.
We'll try to. Yeah. All good. Right.
Thank you so much, Tim. Just remind us where everyone needs to follow you and get your training plans and book you for coaching and your team. Yeah,
so the social is mainly Instagram, so Tim Pigott HP3. The website hp-3.co.uk. Doing a bit of work on that, or upcoming, so there's a big sort of rebrand coming on that one. Cool. But yeah, that's where the information is at the moment, and then there's links there to things like the Training Peaks, and I think on your website you've got links to the Training Peaks things that I've done for your listeners as well. Yes, that's in the film description below. And also Tim actually played a big part in the training plans in my ultra running handbook. So the Ultimate Ultra Running Handbook is a good thing to get if you want more from Tim as well. All good. Brilliant. Cool. Well, we'll probably catch up again in another few weeks, I'll take it. Yes. Yeah. Let me know when you're back from your travels, and I hope it goes really well. Will do. All right. Nice one. Okay. Bye, Tim.